All right, I believe we are live. We're here with our friend Chad here to talk about hobby-related stuff. Lots of, I would say, exciting things are in store for everyone, particularly those people who enjoy the Horus Heresy. Yeah, nice to have you here, and same with
Oh,
you,
thanks.
everybody. Um, I guess that
Are we the people who enjoy the Horus Heresy?
Uh, I guess. Yeah, I mean,
Yes.
I've read a bunch of the novels. I liked some of them.
Mhm.
Um, we bought.
I've read all of them.
That's impressive. That's
That's
that's impressive.
incredible.
I'm
I
up to
read
date
a
on season
bunch.
Terra too.
Okay. How many of those have been released?
Um,
Is that
so
6 or 5 or something?
I think it's 6 full novels, and there were like 2 novellas, Fury and Magnus and
Oh
stuff.
God, so there were already at least. Gee, okay.
Yeah, we're getting real close. It's gonna be, I think, next year that the last book gets released.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay.
Gosh, that's something else. Um, and so I guess when did the Horus Heresy game related stuff actually start coming out? So if I remember correctly, it was during our first year of graduate school when they released the model of Angron. So that
And that
was
was the first Primarch.
yeah. So my God, that was
What, 2010? 2011?
yeah, I mean
We started graduate school in 2009, but that shit may have been 2010.
yeah, so regardless, it was something like that. So it was a long time ago, and that was around when they released the first book, I
I
guess,
think
Yeah.
right?
that one came out in 2008.
Okay.
So it was a little ahead, but they got through the first 3 fast, and they kind of spread out a little bit after that.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
slow.
And then in these past couple of years, it really kind of took a nosedive. um, yeah. So wow, it's been a long time. And I guess since that start, how many I guess this new box game, will this be the third plastic Horus Heresy box game they will have released?
I think so.
So
Because
that
they had.
Yeah.
yeah, that in itself I feel is a little interesting. So over this whole time, they've actually released a fair number of plastic box games that sort of help people who are interested in it. But I guess
It was never the
yeah,
core
in
game that
both
people wanted to
yeah,
play.
in both
Yeah.
both both of those, it was kind of just a one and done. Like, we're not really that interested in supporting this, but here's some new plastic armor mark for Space Marines, and then hope you don't care. You're not getting anything for 6 more years or something. Um, so I guess with that in mind, this based on what recently they revealed, the things that are going to be released, it seems like they're a lot more serious this time. Though, that being said, I would imagine that will still result in they'll have a series of plastic releases,
Mm-hmm.
and then that'll be it. And then they won't look at it again for a long time. But,
Yeah, we'll
um,
see. I mean, it might be like their Necromunda like stuff. Who knows?
One
that's
of the big
true.
problems is just getting the volume to justify plastic.
Mm-hmm. Which, since it's Space Marines, I feel it's probably easier than most things.
Especially this box, there's no Legion designations on everything. You get a good mix of different units and stuff. You can make this one army if you wanted to, so it's probably a good start there.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Well, do we want to just go in to start recording the podcast thing so we don't re-go over stuff.
Yeah, I think that would be fine.
as well.
All right, well, I'm going to start then. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Dragged into Turbolasers, a miniature wargaming podcast by the people behind the blog Between the Bolter and Me. This is episode 93. I'm your host, Eric Wire, and I'm here with my two brothers, Adam Wire,
Hey, everybody.
Greg Wire,
Hey everyone.
and I'm excited to have our friend Chad here as well. Nice to have you here, Chad.
Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, this is at least the second time we had you
Second
chat
time.
about Eldar. I guess not too far back.
Yeah, I think it
But-
was even this
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, nice to have you here. And we figured this was a good time to talk about the upcoming, seemingly fully plastic release of the newest edition of the Horus Heresy game. And we thought of you immediately because you read the majority, if not all, the Horus
Rumor
Heresy
has it
novels,
it's
which is
all of them.
quite a feat.
I mean, a lot of it was audiobook, but still, yeah.
I mean, that's amazing. Like, I feel I probably read maybe 6, which there are
probably
a lot.
read
I feel
No,
most
you've beaten. I have read none.
none. Yeah, okay. I read a bunch of the ones Dan Abnett wrote. Those are the main ones that I had read.
Good choice.
Yeah.
I do recommend the audiobooks, though, especially since they teamed up with Audible.
Mhm.
They have very good acting on it and everything, and they're quite easy to listen to.
Yeah, I've listened to a few that way. Some of the Siege of Terra ones, and
Yeah.
mainly that. But I read, like, I don't know, 10 or so of the Horus Heresy novels, also.
I
Mostly
mean, there are
Advent ones.
plenty you can skip.
Yeah.
Like,
Like
no
all the
loss.
Dark Angel ones.
They even had them.
I don't know. They're not as bad as people make them out to be, to me at least. But like Damnation of Pythos, there's a few books like that where it's just nothing. It doesn't impact anything else, and it's
Yeah,
just like,
okay.
yep, it's done.
Yeah, I feel there was a large span of years where it was just lots of collection of short stories and not really either that or novels that weren't really progressing the Horus Heresy per se, and people got kind of tired of it. But now I guess with the Siege of Terra arc, that's like has some finality to it. Not that they can't continue to write additional stories within that time frame, but
Is that arc finished or is it still going? The Siege
it's
of
two
Terra?
more
still
books.
going.
2 more, but do they know has it been announced who's writing them?
Yes, both of them. ADB's doing one, and Dan Abnett's doing the other one.
Okay, so that's pretty good then. So
Yeah,
they're
they're-
finishing up with 2 solid authors.
Yeah. Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, you've read.
Not that we're gonna delve into exactly, the contents of those books, because a lot of people have probably read them or could read them, and spoilers and things like that. But of the Siege of Terra books, does one stood out to you as the best so far?
I mean, to me, I would say probably Saturnine.
The Abnett one, I think.
Yes, it has a lot of big moments. There's some good Primarch moments where they kind of come up against each other, and there's kind of a continuing storyline that wraps up kind of nicely.
Okay. That was the one I was kind of most excited to get to, just because, again, it's Abnett, and I figured he often does a pretty good job of introducing some like human characters to the mix and not just Space Marines. But
Definitely, there are some like Imperial Guard type characters that follow along with that. Just some good like scale and perspective.
Which I feel that for the Horus Heresy, the actual miniature game and like all the black books and stuff that were released by Forge World, I feel that was one of the best things that was always well presented, was the scale of everything. which I
Mhm.
think at times Warhammer 40,000 in their background and codices and whatnot, sometimes the scale can seem very small and insulated,
Yeah.
like, oh, just a couple like Valkyries flying in
Well,
an
yeah.
important leader and one
Yeah.
special Chimera just saved the
I
day
sort
or
of
something.
remember one of the last, I'm gonna say Codex books that I read was um
The
when they
Fall,
just
didn't you read the Fall Acadia
yeah, the Fall
stuff?
Acadia stuff where
Mm.
Acadia was destroyed. It's like they were talking about this like world-ending cataclysmic whatever event, and then they'll have little paragraphs. And then 3 vendettas flew in and shot their rockets and destroyed such. It's like just
Really
completely
pulls you
took
out
you
and
out of everything. Just so like it was just bad writing.
I
And
mean, one of the classic issues there is the chapter is 1,000 Marines, and there are
Mhm.
approximately 1,000 chapters. So that gives you a million Space Marines in the entire galaxy.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so after reading some of that, I made it through that book, and then the second one, which involved the Eldari and shit, and that those new
Fracture of Baltan.
yeah, that
Mhm.
bullshit. Like I
I
read
just
like
read it recently.
I read a quarter of that, and it was pretty bad, and then I stopped. I couldn't keep going.
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
feel the Horus Heresy, the scale is better and it's often written more in terms of like military history type stuff
Hmm.
with like movement of forces and things of that nature, which I think has
And like
always made
major
things.
battles and stuff, rather
Hmm.
than like a pivotal moment of like one battle tank shoot it like just god.
Yeah, so with that in mind, yeah, so the Horus Heresy miniatures and the game has been going on for quite a while now, but um sort of maybe when the books started to slow up and whatnot, the game itself started to slow up too. Like there wasn't as much stuff being released. I guess Alan Bly, who had been fairly critical in some of the writing and stuff, he passed away. 40K got some like new additions and whatnot, whereas the Horus Heresy didn't update. And I feel like just a lot of things converged together. Forge World, their prices went up because they started to use like sell them in the United States and ship them there, and they like inflated the prices, and I don't know, all these things sort of I think conflated together and resulted in sort of the Horus Heresy miniature category and playing died down a bunch. But it was talked about for a while that there'd maybe be a plastic release that would sort of rekindle that, this being the third release of sort of plastic Horus Heresy stuff. The previous two, like Battle of Calth, Burning of Calth, or Burning of Prospero, some
Yeah.
names like that had been released, but they were kind of standalone games, not like the core game people wanted. And I'm happy to say that they've finally sort of revealed that through Adepticon and some other weekly reveals. It is very clear the Horus Heresy is being updated, and this time with a lot of plastic releases, which I think is, I feel, somewhat important for getting, newer people into the game and excited about things.
Well, I mean,
But
I guess just
yeah.
recently at Warhammer, the Warhammer Fest, like the last, maybe it was the last day of that, was essentially like a weekender thing where they invited a whole bunch of like content creators from around the world to come and like showcase and paint and do stuff with some of the different models and stuff. So they're like they made a whole event out of it. So they're clearly trying to push this more, particularly by putting it out to like other content creators, like not all of which were like say the die-hard Horus Heresy players from the beginning.
Hmm.
They're clearly trying to push it out and market it to like other people who would just play for Warhammer 40,000 or something, saying like, "Hey, you like that? Well, you'll like this too. Why don't you play this too?" So, I think that that's probably good and what they sort of would need to do.
Yeah, they need more people into it because the Horus Heresy community, partially because everything had sort of fallen to disuse in a way, was just characterized by a very core, smaller group of gamers that maybe at times could feel a little gatekeepery.
But yeah, I mean,
Per
I
se.
feel in general, whether or not, I don't necessarily say this is actually true, but I think there's sort of a general consensus with a lot of hobbyists that a lot of the people in the Horus Heresy community are sort of gatekeepery or like rivet counter type stuff that like they'll
Yeah.
chew your head off if like you have a Primaris looking Space Marine in your force, stuff like that. And I don't necessarily think that's really true. I mean, there are certainly vocal people in all sort of like all areas of the
Mhm.
hobby who will call stuff out and be like complete assholes about stuff, but
Yeah, agreed. But yeah, so newer people, more easier to get into it just with plastic models, no trying to bend resin and things like that. I think all of which will be, I think, beneficial here. I guess it will remain to be seen if it actually is successful in mobilizing people to start a new game. I know Games Workshop has often had trouble actually starting new, core games and keeping them alive unless they're the 40K or sort of the Age of Sigmar fantasy battle stuff. And I guess now they've had some success with like Necromunda and things, but often the games sort of die out. And it will be interesting to see if the Horus Heresy will actually spark like some new life and continue, because I don't think people in most local hobby stores have really been playing the Horus Heresy.
no,
What
because
do people think it will take off? And do you hope it will?
Here's my question.
yeah.
What do we know? What are the rules like? Is it just a modification of standard Warhammer 40,000 rules? Is it a simplified thing?
I think it's still the older edition, like 8th or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's like 7th or 8th edition that's similar to, but that's the best I know.
Yeah, because they were clear, like they didn't, at least in the past, that when 40K went up to 9th, like the Horus Heresy was staying. I think for this, they're maybe updating the rules slightly, perhaps, but I'm not entirely. I think it's changing to some capacity, but I think there's not switching editions, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, so I'm
So
pretty sure
that's
the
interesting.
rules will be different from like standard Warhammer 40,000. And honestly, I haven't paid that much attention to it, but they are changing at least a little bit.
And if they're the previous editions, that means says they're not quite as streamlined as some of the like the newer editions. Although, having said that, like since it's basically just Space Marines fighting Space Marines, I think it might not be as challenging to keep up to date with like, oh, what could the opponent be fielding other than like chapter specific units. Like it's and I guess,
Also,
Mechanicum and stuff, but
I feel what'll happen is, since it looks like at least this time they're going to be releasing a fair number of plastic things, I would imagine Games Workshop has set it up such that maybe there'll be around 3 to 6 months of them slowly releasing new things after like the initial release of the game, and people will be excited about it initially, and then it will slowly die down and people will start paying more attention back to like 40K and stuff. And I guess in this case they're hopefully probably marketing they're like, oh, if you buy all these Space Marines, you can also use them in 40k too. Like, they'll probably start having things like, you have your Spartan tank, you can use that too, and it's like, you can only
Yeah,
have
well,
one in your army
that
and
I
shit.
think is the thing that I wonder if, like, I'm sure a lot of people will buy this, but
It's
will they actually start
$300.
playing?
It's
But will they
$300
actually
for the
start
box
playing
game.
the Horus Heresy when they can just like, oh, this is an army of Space Marines, or have normal Space Marines? You know what I mean? And a lot of the people who have been playing Horus Heresy, like, they probably have all this stuff. I mean, it's not plastic, but a lot of the
Also,
die-hard fans I could see, like, I already have 3 Spartan tanks and 5 Contemptor dreadnoughts, and that sort of
yeah.
thing. Like,
Yeah.
that
So I heard
core
a
group
little bit.
probably doesn't care.
I heard a little bit that I'll be honest, I didn't pay that much attention to it. But I heard a little bit of talk that maybe in one of the upcoming like official tournaments or something for the Horus Heresy, they're going to be using the new rules. And like people were sort
Hmm.
of pissed because like they had developed, everyone had spent all this time figuring out the armies and stuff that they were going to
Yeah.
use, and then they don't really have that much time to redo everything
Mhm.
and rework,
Mhm.
because almost certainly things will change in the lists and whatnot, and if like you're actually playing in a tournament, you might not be able to do that quickly.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel this sort of thing, there'll always be growing pains there, and people will complain about it, this and that. But
Well, here's a
um,
question for you. If they're so it looks like they're maybe keeping the essentially the old rules, so that will probably make the old Horus Heresy fans happy then?
probably
I don't.
at least the vocal minority, like that vocal potential and minority. Um,
Well, Chad, what's your thoughts? Who do you think will be the people that buy this most? Old HH fans or people that just want a whole bunch of Space Marines to start new armies?
I mean, I think it might be something that helps get crossover people from 40k down to 30k. It also helps bring new people in just because there's so much lore behind 30k. There's so many people that have read
Mhm.
quite a bit of the novels that 30k is more of like they're not familiar with 40k. They're used to 30k. So I mean, there are some differences just lore wise and whatever, but yeah, it's a
Yeah.
good entry point for a lot of new people that are more into that side
Yeah.
of it.
yeah, that I think is a good point because there is, I think, a fairly sizable group of people that just have no involvement in the miniature gaming side at all and
Hmm.
have just read a lot of the novels because there are so many. So it would be good for Games Workshop if they could tap into that group and say, like, hey, it's never been easier to get into this. You can recreate some of your favorite books or, stuff like that. So I think
I like
that
some of
would be
this
good.
with the Mark 6 armor stuff coming out. Like they showed off all these essentially like weapon kits that you can buy where you get 6 different weapons and 10 of each, or you get 2 different and you get 15 of each or whatever. And
Hmm.
that's a lot of customization you can do then with list building or whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's a
Yeah,
lot
no.
easier than what you had to do if you were buying all the shit from Forge World. I mean, I guess from
Yeah.
Forge World, at least for a time, I don't know if they still have them anymore because Forge World's catalog seems to change all the time. But you could buy, like, resin, like 10 plasma guns or whatever. Well,
Mhm.
now it looks like it's much easier than that because you can just buy like a special weapons upgrade kit and it essentially gives you all of them, and it
Yep.
No,
looks like
that's
they'll
that's
slot
wonderful.
slot into these new beaky Mark 6 Space Marines. Like, I don't think we could have hoped for anything better than that.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know how expensive it is, but to give you 10 of each of 6 different weapons is very rare for like Games Workshop stuff.
Yeah, I would
Yeah, I
think
think
it's probably gonna be. I would be surprised it's gonna be like $40 or something at least. It's probably gonna
That's
be a
still not
lot.
terrible though for
But
60
like
weapons. Like,
compared to what you would have to do if you were buying the shit from Forge World and getting all the miscast bullshit,
Like I
like
think,
it's
yeah, and I think
nice.
even for 40K players,
Yeah, I
wouldn't
mean that's
scoff at this
true.
idea. Like rather than, oh, I bought my tactical squad and like I have one melta and can I find one
yeah.
in my big box, or like just to have all that stuff. And same with the heavy weapons, and
hmm
to not have cables snaking to backpacks that don't fit together and stuff like
And like the
that's
fact that
all
the
win.
weapons have the hands molded onto the grips and everything, so you don't have to worry about trying to do that.
They look,
Hmm.
yeah, they're positioned a lot better
And
too. Just
supposedly they
that.
work with the other plastics, the Mark IV and Mark III. Maybe
hmm
it needs a little bit more finagling than the Mark VI, but it's still pretty easy to do. So like that's much better.
I feel that them showing that was probably the biggest thing that made me decide that they were being relatively serious about this, because I know when the initial pictures of the boxed game, the $300 box game came out, people were certainly excited, but there were immediately people were talking about how like, oh, the squads they're giving us don't have any of the weapons and whatnot, and we need lots of them and all that other stuff, which I mean is a valid concern. But this, I feel, was probably the best thing that they could have done to address
Yeah,
that.
and my guess is they'll be released pretty quickly or around the same time as the
Yeah.
box, which towards that end, they also revealed that they're just going to be releasing boxes of 20 of the newer Mark 6 as well as the older 3 and 4 just in separate boxes, which I was kind of excited to see that they revealed that right away, in the sense that I could have seen it sort of like price gated at the only way you can get Mark 6 Marines is buying the huge box, and then
Yeah.
5 months down the line you can get them separately. Which, I mean, I feel they do stuff like that all the time, but if they want
That's
to
right.
get more buy-in, I think this is a better way of doing it.
Yeah, I think they've been getting a little bit better at stuff like that. Like even in the new Necromunda vehicle Ash Waste bullshit, when they released the actual game, they also were you could also at this the same weekend I think buy like just a box of the Ash Waste like gang or whatever, or the Ash Waste like Beetle or Eiders or the dumb Orlock
Yeah.
driver shit. So it's like they certainly know people get pissed when they do that, and so they're a little better about that stuff now. And I think
Hmm.
particularly if they're wanting to increase the reach of it, anything like that will help a lot, because I
Hmm.
think there are everyone kind of is in a different situation. Like the die-hard Horus Heresy people probably aren't gonna want to buy a lot of this stuff because they already have it. But other people who are just looking to get into any of it, they might want all of it. And like for
Hmm.
people like us, like I don't, or at least the three of us, like we're certainly not interested in playing Horus Heresy, but I would be interested in looking at some of the new Mark 6 Space Marines and complaining about them.
And maybe converting
Yeah,
them.
and converting
Well,
one of them.
yeah. Well, I mean, I could see trying to paint a couple myself, but also $300. I think that was revealed for the
Hmm.
this larger box game. Chad, what do you think? Does this seem like a good price to you? Is
I
it
mean,
something
from
that
what I've
you would
seen,
consider?
um, I would not consider it just because I'm not doing any 30K stuff. I have plenty of
Hmm.
40K piled up, but it's a pretty good cost savings. Like if you would price this out individually, I mean, I think I saw it was at least like a $200 savings
Yeah,
Hmm.
on the box compared with like relative of today prices on things for things that don't exist.
I
And
would
it looks
say,
like most of it's probably actual multi-part stuff. Like,
yeah, I
it's
think
not.
I would say overall, like if you really wanted to get into the Horus Heresy, buying the game and just painting all the shit for like one chapter would at least do okay for making like a force or whatever.
Hmm.
And I think they've done a pretty good job of not giving you extra bullshit that you wouldn't want. Like the only thing, the only thing here that I don't think anyone would want are the plastic Terminators.
Yeah, people have those, and they're
People have
not.
them, and they look terrible.
And they're
So
not designed to look better in scale with, like
no,
the Mark 6 Marines, for example.
so like they don't look good, but like most of the other stuff is pretty good. I would have rather they took those Terminators out and like added like one of the other plastic vehicles or two or something. Because
Hmm.
like I don't probably you need a boatload of rhinos if you play Horus Heresy. I don't know.
Who knows?
I would say you
Who
do.
knows? Well, yeah, I mean, ultimately, I feel with all the stuff that has been slowly revealed throughout the last couple days and weeks, I've just been generally excited to see that it looks like Games Workshop is taking it seriously in the concept that they're really releasing a lot in plastic, which is pretty exciting because, like, even stuff like Necromunda, which does a good job of releasing most of the core stuff in plastic, they still do have, like, oh, and we have some resin upgrades and we have these resin
Yeah.
characters and such, which, I mean, I understand why they would do it, but it it really turns me off to see anything resin. And the fact that people will be able, like ourselves, for example, like I could buy a Spartan they revealed the Sicarans in plastic. Like I could actually buy one of those. Like I feel I've wanted a Sicaran battle tank for ever since they first revealed the resin ones years back because I think they're one of the cooler looking Space Marine tanks. But
Mhm.
fuck if I was gonna deal with resin, like
Yeah.
particularly for
Any
like a
large
larger
resin
vehicle.
pieces. Yeah.
So it would just all be warped, and then it has those long auto cannons that would have been bent noodles, and
Yeah.
like,
Really
no, I
bad.
don't need that. I don't need that.
Yeah,
Well,
so at this point, like they've shown they're going to be releasing like a plastic Spartan, a plastic Rhino, a plastic Sicaran battle tank, a new variation of that tank with like cannon or whatever, a plastic Contemptor. So like that does a pretty good job of going through at least a lot of the main things people would want. I mean, there's no way they're gonna be able to release plastic things of like all of the vehicles because what there have been like 50 almost like 15 years of them slowly releasing new tank variations and whatever. But
but yeah, this is still a pretty big inroad into doing that. And
mhm.
like, who knows? There's that bigger tank. Maybe they'll even make like the
A
Felgrave in
Felglaive,
plastic or
yeah,
something. Who
Hmm.
knows?
yeah. I mean, they
Well, here's
could.
a question for all of you. Like, I largely don't pay attention to Horus Heresy or the different armor marks that they have now remade in plastic.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Which ones have so this new box set, like they made it's the Mark 6, that's the beaky armor.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
what other marks have they redone in plastic? Iron armor, is that Mark? What mark's that?
3.
3.
Has
Yeah.
that been made in plastic?
Yeah, that was the Burning of Prospero, like their second
Yeah. Burning
Yeah.
Horus
Prospero.
Heresy game that had them and like a Space Wolf character, Thousand Suns. Oh, I guess it was actually Ahriman before he was
Yeah, it
like.
was Armon.
So those models, the anatomy probably hadn't been
No, it's
slightly
still
changed.
bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you wouldn't, or
But
I would.
the first Horus Heresy was a thing dealing with Calth, the Battle of Calth,
Hmm.
like Ultramarines and Word Bearers and stuff, which
Yep.
Dan Abnett wrote a pretty good book pertaining to that.
Yeah, it was cool.
That had the Mark IV Marines, which are of a similar quality to the Mark III. Like, they're far, far superior to the resin things available at the time.
I think in general they look pretty good, so long as you don't. They all need to have helmets on, because when they don't have helmets on and you can see how big their heads are and how they don't have torsos and stuff, like, that's when it all falls apart.
Yeah.
I do like the relatively small plasma pistols throughout the set.
Yeah, they look
Yeah,
better.
Towards the bolter, at least.
Yeah, like, I think in general, if you still wanted the old janky looking Space Marines, the two kits for both of those Horus Heresy games were your best options.
Yeah, like, they're still nice. Like, they're well done. They like better than kind of the older like tactical squads and stuff. Well cut. Like, they're good. It's just
And they give you
their
different
old wonky anatomy.
They give you the different variations of like bolters and other weapons and stuff, which is nice.
Well, is there any particular models in these newer releases, Chad, that like really stand out to you that you think are great or actually feel like you would like to pick up in some fashion, even if you're not really planning to storm into playing the Horus Heresy?
I mean, just a general box of the BQ Marines, it seems like there's enough options and enough customization where you might be able to do something with it. And just it being plastic, it's so much easier to convert than working with resin.
Yeah, I feel I'm kind of in a similar boat. And honestly, I wonder if maybe even buy like some of the heavy weapons, particularly like the shoulder mounted, like the plasma cannons or las cannons. I mean, they're kind of stupid, but there's some nostalgia there.
Yeah, it's so
And
classic.
I wouldn't mind perhaps painting a few of them as like 40k Dark Angels, because I've been painting a bunch of them of different types just to have it in comparison to some of the others, and for that nostalgia. Like, I feel that would be fun.
Yeah.
The shoulder weapons always remind me of Chaos Gate.
Oh yeah. The OG Chaos Gate, not that new.
Exactly. Yeah.
Not the new Grey Knight one.
Oh yeah.
Which admittedly, supposedly that's relatively good, so I feel maybe I'll play it at some point when it is cheaper and the bugs have been fixed. But yeah, that old school Chaos Gate. I feel that came out like around when we just started in high school, perhaps.
Around, yeah.
Well, yeah, I think it even predated third edition, I think. Like, maybe it was just before. Regardless, it was a while back. But
because did it come with like a plastic Space Marine, like a second edition plastic Space Marine?
I don't know if it did.
One
maybe.
of the games like that, I think, did.
So apparently it was 98.
Yeah, okay.
Damn.
So we would have been like 4th or 5th grade.
Yeah. And that was around when third edition was just coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah, good times. Good times. Well, do you have any interest in like some of the larger tanks or stuff like that?
I mean, I think it's great that they're making larger tanks just because of the pains of large resin pieces. I have plenty of stuff to work on, like I said, so I'm probably not going to buy anything of it. But I mean, I think they look good. They're good representations of what they're supposed to be, and like I was saying, the plastic just makes it so much easier to resin.
I could see maybe getting a Sakaran because I've always liked them, but
they're cool. Yeah.
I don't feel like I've been trying to build up models for these Dark Angels for like that I conceivably could use in a kill team and mix and match stuff. But I guess maybe someday it'll grow up enough that I could place 40k with it. I don't know. Having said that, I probably don't need a Sakaran with that. Certainly not a Spartan, but I don't know. I guess all of this is all of the stuff that I would be probably buying is purely just for the fun of it and to paint and like it. But I don't feel I need to create a huge selection of heavy support choices that I will struggle to store anywhere.
I mean, it took me this long just to buy Land Raider, where I just bought one like 2 months ago and got it done. I mean, I can't see me going any larger than that. And that's just for me to paint, enjoy, and then put in my case. Like,
Well, one thing that I think is
Yeah.
cool about like the Spartan, which is essentially just a slightly bigger Land Raider,
mhm.
I'm kind of interested to see how it's been designed, because the older Land Raider like was before digital designing and stuff, and they're
Mhm.
kind of a pain to assemble.
They can be, yeah.
Like the hatch, I mean, they're not like the old third edition Land Speeder or something that was just completely awful, but I feel the main Land Raider could use being like recut and redone with their sort of improved molding technology and whatnot to assemble better. Honestly, the same with the Rhino. So I feel some of these things, it'll, particularly for people who have been playing Space Marines for a while or have assembled a bunch of the stuff, I could see people being somewhat excited or charmed to see how the assembly process has changed a little bit. Hopefully, almost certainly for the better.
But
When
who
the
wants a
new
tank that
Rhino,
big?
yeah, when the new Rhino comes out, you should just assemble one of them.
Yeah, because I had seen the how the new one assembles. Like there was how you had to before how you would put the tracks together. There was like a seam going kind of along the track that was very kind of obvious when you put the little armor plate sort of thing on the top. But it looks like it's been recut and moved to the side, so it's not as obvious. Like you don't have to like try to sand it away or fill it in and sand it and whatnot. So I feel stuff like that just shows that there was some thought put into it. Yeah, so like the little track guards along the front, there used to be kind of a seam going down along the front there that was always pretty obvious unless you really went above and beyond to try to fill it and change it. It's cool to see that that has changed. I guess a lot of people have also been kind of excited about some of these vehicles just in the fact that the little gunner they've included appears to be Mark II Crusade armor. So fingers crossed we get Crusade armor at some point.
Because goddamn, the Mark II Crusade armor from Forge World, or they're some of the shittiest Space Marines they've ever put out. Like they look awful, awful, and this you can already tell, even though you can only see half of the model. Like they've really done a lot of redesigning and reworking to make it look less pathetic.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that means eventually they will release a box of that armor mark. But yeah, we'll see.
Hopefully. Is there anything people are hoping for with this? Like maybe new things that aren't just re-envisionings of Forge World models, but like new things that might actually get.
I'm hoping they revisit the Solar Auxiliary or whatever they're called, like the Imperial Army, the Imperial Guard and stuff. Like they need to revisit them and make plastic models for them. It's like that's a pretty big faction and stuff in the Horus Heresy, and that is, even if you want to play them, it's even shittier than if you're
It's like untenable.
Yeah.
Wow, a squad of 20 guys is $140.
Oh my god. With their little las rifles that just snap
it's the
off
last rifle section.
And then
the brittle
half of the models they made for them, you can't even get anymore. Like they
See, that was gonna be my question. Can you even buy any of them anymore?
I think you
the
can
main
buy
ones,
some of them, but like a lot of the stuff, like they actually made a lot for them, and I think a lot of it is just you can't get anymore.
Yeah, I think it would be super cool if they started to like redesign and make plastic stuff for some of the Mechanicum stuff, because there's
Mm-hmm.
some weird kind of cool Mechanicum stuff
Well, they
in the
have
Horus
lots of the little
Heresy.
robots and stuff. The little mech robot things, some of
Oh, it
which are
does seem
cool.
like the smaller robots. I don't remember what they're called. I could see them making them because a lot of those are already, I think, sort of 3D sculpted and such. Like, I think it would be super easy to port that over to just plastics, I think, which would be neat because I think a lot of they're like Thanatar assault robots. Maybe I'm making that up. I don't know.
Something like that.
But some of that stuff is cool. So, yeah, I guess sort of, yeah, just following what you were saying, Adam. If they just did some of the other stuff that is already in the Horus Heresy would be cool.
Well, so yeah, having some more human stuff would be better because I think now, like I think people are really starting to realize now that the standard human, Imperial Guard, any of that stuff, they've been ignored for a long time. There's very little variety, and what you do have is showing its age. So, in this case, them making plastic solar auxiliary, like, that could also be like a shoe-in for like anyone who's playing Imperial Guard or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
But seriously, though, does any of that matter? What really needs to be done is Demon Primarch Angron. That's what we need.
that is certainly going to happen eventually.
I think that, yeah, honestly, I think that because I don't know, the Weekender, one of the recent reveals, I think they, for 40k, announced that
World
new
Eaters are coming
Berserkers
back,
and
yeah.
World Eaters and 40k were coming, and all
Yeah,
that
to bring
stuff.
out Codex World Eaters.
Yeah, so almost certainly at that point there will release a 40k Demon Primarch Angron that people could. They'll probably, and here are rules for 30k too.
I'm almost a little sad. I think I'll be a little sad to see the Corn Berserkers go. They're so bad, but like, I kind of love them.
They're a classic set of models.
They're really bad looking. But
I
it'll
mean,
be interesting. I almost feel like when they release the new plastic ones, it would be kind of fun to build and paint one of each to just really, really look at them. And I mean, I'm sure when they start showing pictures online, we will scrutinize the hell out of it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm already excited. I'm already preparing for the Mark 6 Beaky Marines here. I'm painting the Mark 6 Armor Marine right now. Straight from Rogue Trader, this little old apothecary.
They
just
yeah, they're great. They look so wonky, like holy shit.
Well, and I'm also painting. Here's one of the Mark IV armor ones. So look at the size difference there.
Oh yeah, really?
There, he's like, I don't know, a head bigger, but then the real size difference is comparing it to Inquisitor scale Artemis. Goes up to his knee or something. But even like even a Primaris Marine compared to this little Mark 6 Mark 6 armor.
Oh,
like
wow.
A Primaris is about twice the height of this old Rogue Trader Beaky model.
I'm glad you're painting that little.
Yeah, I realized I had one of these. It was one of the first, I think, Games Workshop models we had ever purchased. As you know what, I should paint this little Beaky Marine to have it at a slightly higher standard than it was before, and then whenever these Horus Heresy models, newer ones, are released and I can get one, I can have a nice comparison of what has happened to the Mark 6 armor since 1987 or whenever it was released. But so yeah, I'm excited for that.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel we've chatted about most of sort of the Horus Heresy pertaining stuff. I guess maybe one last thing we could chat about a little bit, and this sort of pertains to this idea that Games Workshop might actually be taking Horus Heresy, in slightly new areas and not just making new plastics of other Forge World models. In that, I think they released a Lucius or model, the Emperor's Children commander guy who eventually turns into Lucius the Eternal, like a demon kind of Emperor's Children dude. And just the fact seeing that there's a relatively nice looking Emperor's Children special character does sort of suggest that, yeah, who knows, maybe they will start releasing some other interesting Horus Heresy characters and stuff, and actually, add some new things to.
Also, they did release
the Heresy.
Those two Horus Heresy characters, plastic characters, not that long ago, right?
Yeah, like Zephon or the one Blood Angel that
Zephon, yeah, the Blood Angel.
with who I don't know is missing a leg and whatnot.
Yeah, he had some implanted, kind of rejected, and he was taken off battle line.
Off active duty, and then he was kicking around with Arkham Land and stuff. I think. And maybe that was one of the Siege of Terra books, like the.
It was Master Mankind.
Oh yeah,
he's also in one of the Siege of Terra books. Yeah, but most of it's Master Mankind.
Yeah. See, I even read that and already had forgotten. Keeping me in check there, Chad.
Right.
Yeah, but so yeah, I don't know. I think there's stuff to be excited about whether or not you're planning to play the Horus Heresy or not.
Yeah.
I mean, I did find it interesting. Apparently, explicitly stated they will not do plastic primers, which is kind of a shame, but understandable because they're low. Like, they're not going to make that many of them.
Yeah, and people aren't. Yeah, just like people aren't going to buy a ton of that, and I feel it maybe makes sense because in some way that would maybe be somewhat of a kick in the face for like Simon Egan, who has spent like the last 15 years or something basically only sculpting Primarch models. So, and they're all quite good.
Well, they would adapt the current sculpts like plastic, for instance. Try to at least.
Yeah, and I think that would be tough, which admittedly, at least maybe the Lion and the White Scar, the Khan, I think Egan digitally sculpted them anyway. So it would be easier in that capacity to make it into plastic.
Yeah.
But, well, maybe they'll make the Khan's motorcycle.
I keep asking for that. I'm saying Khan on jet bike. He has rules for it in Horus Heresy.
That would be great.
So that would be fun.
They have to make it then.
Yeah, I feel that I could see them doing stuff like that, like not redoing the ones that are already there, but making stuff like that could be cool.
But then I don't know. Be forums for some of them and stuff. So
we'll see.
Maybe like another shoe-in would be to make the Primarch for the Alpha Legion, because the Forge World one looks like shit.
Oh yeah, they need to witch Alferis.
Yeah,
they always need another.
Oh, that's Omegon, not Alferis.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. That would be clutch. Well, with that, is there anything else we'd like to chat about pertaining to the Horus Heresy, or?
I don't know. I think we covered most of the stuff. I guess looking forward to seeing what they reveal next and like more details for it. Like, they've been pretty steadily showing new things, so I'm anxious to see kind of where it goes, and also to get my hands on at least one of the new plastic beaky Marines to just play around with and complain about.
Likewise. Yeah, well, I guess with that, maybe we can wrap this up. Thanks for joining us here, Chad. Nice to always chat with you and get your perspective. And maybe in the future, we can see you paint up a few of the Horus Heresy models if you get a few to bolster some of your forces that you already have.
So the only current Horus Heresy one I have right now is Lehman Ross, but I'm kind of waiting to put him until I get a little bit better. But
Okay, yeah,
I wouldn't
yeah.
mind doing some of the Vikis though. They look interesting.
Well, so what
Mhm.
we can probably just do is we can just buy one of the box of 20 of them, and then we can each paint
Distribute them?
one.
A few.
There we
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, because
Yeah, we
that's
don't
Get them
need
faster
20 of
that way.
that.
yeah. We don't need more than that.
Yeah, if I painted like 5 of them, I would be ecstatic.
No, that would be very good.
But yeah. Well, yeah, all right. Well, thank you again for joining us, and thanks everybody for listening. We will talk to you again soon. All right, it's recorded. We did it, everybody.
Hell yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing you do some more painting on that little old Marine, because they've really changed over time.
It's not a particularly good model, but it's a nice single piece, so
Well, so I'm painting a little knight from that was also like I think released in like 87 or whatever. They had the game like Death on the Reich. And holy shit, it's a really small, kind of wonky looking model. And
as models were back then.
yeah, like
Well,
they're
actually, so because Chad, you already have some Space Wolves, right?
But yeah, a bunch.
Or at least your older ones. Like, would you?
I've gotten some Primera stuff though.
Is the the Horus Heresy paint scheme? Is it any different for the?
Not
No.
much. I mean, it's a darker gray.
Yeah,
But
right.
that's it.
But like it kind of whatever. Like
You could kind of double play it. Yeah.
that's what
The
I.
thing is, like, the weapons. They're not like Horus Heresy is a lot like squad of one weapon.
That's true. That's true. You'd almost have to like
Magnetize it out of everything.
and that would be kind of a pain.
who wants
Like
to
I
do
already
that?
do.
Yeah.
I'm doing some Wraith Guard
Hmm.
/ Wraith Blades right now.
Mm-hmm.
They're currently magnetized and have every weapon option.
Bullshit.
Damn.
I'm
Just
working through
little
painting them
negative
right now.
magnets.
Yeah.
Do you like just drill the stuff out and like put them in? Like, has that been pretty easy or?
It depends on the
Yeah, 'cause
geometry of the situation. Like sometimes there's like they actually have a little peg that sticks out.
Mhm.
In that case, you can just like cut that off with the magnet there. But a lot of times
Yeah.
you have to drill, and then I've busted the back of so many things already.
Yeah, no, I could
Oh,
see
just
some
a
of
little deeper, a little deeper. Oh shit!
Fuck.
it.
Like I'm being
Uh-huh.
careful. I'm being careful. Fuck.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nah,
And
'cause I
trying to
mean
like
that's
center the magnets and like
Mhm.
keeping the
yeah, 'cause
polarity right itself is a headache.
Yeah,
yeah,
making
or
sure you
even
don't
just
fuck it
like
up.
drilling barrels for bolters and stuff.
Yeah.
Like
I hate it.
it's a real pain in the ass because it's so easy to get it slightly off centered, and then it's just like,
Then you just see it.
Yeah, then you've completely fucked it.
yeah, it's awful,
Like,
awful.
Just accept your failure at that point.
well, I think it's funny. Like, if you look at Games Workshop, some of their official models and stuff, like, and like other people, like they'll drill out the barrels and paint them, and it's like every so often you see you see a few that are just awful, like awful. That it's like you just know whoever did that was like, ah, fuck, like,
Yeah, it's like that slipped through, but then again, like no one cares. I don't care.
Yeah,
No.
this is a job. Like,
Occasionally you catch like blue tack people in there where like
yeah,
their arm partially fell off.
yeah,
That's a real choice.
yeah. So in many regards, like unless you're really gonna take the time and be super careful, like I'm still not really against just painting the barrels, like painting the black of the barrel. Like they don't look, they look about the same, honestly. And then the other thing with drilling the barrels, like then it also comes down to you should choose the bore size of the barrel. And like I feel more often than not, people make the bore size way too big.
Way too big.
And then that also looks terrible. So they don't center it right. The bore is too wide, and it's just like
And I
failure
feel
all around.
it's just more likely to break because, like,
Yeah, you
if
like
it's a
crush it.
relatively thin bore, like, and it's slightly off centered, you can kind of carve away at it and sort of make it look better and whatnot. But
Yeah.
I think some of the difficulty that there is, though, GW sells like a pin vise that
They tell
maybe
you
has
this
two
is the
sizes of
diameter of a
bits.
bolter. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think you're right. They have like
Yeah.
two sizes. One they say this is a las gun, and one this is a bolter.
Yeah.
All of which are like
Too big.
too big. So like
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of hard. People are sort of set up for failure unless you already had stuff like that from other things you were doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, now I almost feel like if you're working on something, a model and such, and you don't have to like build like 10 of them or something, like I've just tended to either partially replace or just replace the barrel with like a series of brass tubes. Like they look better. Like you don't have to worry of them crumpling or anything like that. Like you can interlock several of them together to like make a smaller bore size but still have the barrel being like a larger like bull barrel type thing to kind of maintain that big bulky look but not have like the bore diameter be like way too big.
Yeah. I've seen you do that, but I've never tried it.
That in itself is also, it's almost like you thought drilling out the barrel was horrible. Well, doing this is it's even worse because it needs to be centered and it needs to be straight. Because if it's not, you'll put the barrel in there and it'll be crooked and like it's bad. So
so
it's like they look really nice, but I don't like doing it.
Yeah,
so
that sounds pretty
that's
awful.
that's like the next level you can take it, but like you probably don't want to be doing anything like that if you are assembling more than like two models. But yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
Well, what do people like? There are a lot of like hobby influencer YouTube people sent out to this Horus Heresy weekend or stuff, but not that much is really shown about it. I mean, I guess every day they've been showing like this is what the Imperial fists are like, and maybe include a picture or something. Some people have an influencer or something painted, but not too much more, which seems like a bit of a shame or a waste.
Well, so I think that all the, we'll say, influencers and stuff that were there, they think they had to sign some agreements and stuff, and like I think they could record stuff from the events and such. It's just they couldn't show it until some date, so it's possible that
date hasn't passed
yet.
That's true.
Because for how many people they paid to bring out there to like see and do stuff, they haven't Like you
It
could
doesn't
have
seem
pretty
like they
easily
made
come
good on
away with
that.
the whole event and not even realize they invited a whole bunch of people to like help
Yeah.
promote the stuff. Yeah, so I don't know.
No, agreed. Agreed. And Chad, did you hear about? I assume you're familiar with Miniac, like his YouTube painting channel. Are you familiar with
Hmm.
him, Scott the
Yeah.
Miniature Maniac? Like, did you see or hear how he he broke the NDA?
Oh, I didn't.
Supposedly, and he said it was by mistake, like that he had been taking footage from like his camera for stuff, but then also from his phone, and he must have posted something on Instagram, and then like is like, ah, shit, I can't do that, and deleted it. But then it must have
Oh
also
god.
posted to Facebook as well, and he
Oh.
didn't think to remove that. So
Huh.
like this happened on the Friday before the Saturday reveal, and then someone from GW kind of came out, told him that this had happened, and escorted him off the premises. And
Oh, wow.
I think also like his, I don't know, agreement with GW to do stuff is voided, and he flew home. Like,
That really sucks.
yeah,
Easy
I mean,
mistake.
Well, with how social media and stuff is now, and like if yeah, but yeah, it's a shame. I guess Games Workshop I guess they have to be pretty serious about that stuff, but ultimately, a lot of it almost feels like they spent all that money to bring this person out who does do a pretty good job of promoting all of their stuff
for free.
for free. Um, yeah, it's a shame because like for the most part, like even if you saw some of that stuff, most of like what they
It was
showed at the
just revealed
weekend
the next day, and it was stuff that, or at least I think the majority of it was like
like
everyone already
stuff that
knew.
pretty
Yeah.
much people already knew about. So like, yeah, that sucks. It's kind of I feel like a huge feel bad moment. Like Jesus, like I can't even imagine like if you got to come out to that and then you fucked up and then you just had to leave. Like oof, oof.
Like, I find it really hard to, like, I mean, obviously he signed an NDA and he fucked it up. Like, there should
Yeah.
be some sort of consequences. But like, I really find it hard to believe that, like, yeah, he intentionally like really wanted to do that. Like, because it's not like he doesn't play the Horus Heresy. He has no skin in the like
Yeah.
reveal, like, rumor sort of
Yeah,
stuff. Like,
no.
what would
Yeah.
that benefit him?
It's an easy mistake with things like cross posting so easily now. So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I don't know. Just feel bad sort of stuff. And like,
Like
I wonder if,
I still feel bad about it. Like God, and like it had nothing to do with me. That's sad.
yeah, he must feel terrible about it.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
sucks.
well, that sucks for him. Uh, but
And then because the thing is,
it
it's like
doesn't hurt. I mean, it certainly won't hurt GW in any meaningful way. They
no,
were gonna reveal all that stuff. Like, GW, they can just keep on not paying YouTubers to do free advertisement, like, and they will continue to do that.
oh yeah. I mean that's certain.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, God, that really sucks. Damn.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about how like that went from something that he was probably really excited about. Like, wow, this is so cool. They're flying me out here to be part of this. Like, wow, this is like such a great experience. And then all of a sudden it became not just a bad experience, but like a horrible experience to the point that like he probably wishes he was never invited. It's fairly damaging to his brand, at least initially. Like, boy, it just went terrible.
Yeah.
It's awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess on that note, take if you ever have to sign one of those an agreement like that, take it very seriously. um, but yeah, fucking social media.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, so I've been looking at some of the painted Primarch models that some of the people invited have done. So, Chad, you say you have Lehman Russ. Is
I do.
you do? Okay, and you've not have you assembled them yet?
No.
Have you? Is the cast okay?
Yeah, I inspected all the pieces. Everything looks alright.
That's
Okay,
good.
so that's like the first big step.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is not a given.
Mm,
I mean, I dry fit everything. Everything looks okay.
That's good.
Mhm.
But I haven't actually
Okay.
glued anything.
Okay. Sort of feel like eventually I would like to paint one of the Primarch models, but like I don't. I guess we
Yeah, I'm working
assembled
up to it.
Angron. We assembled one of them. And I mostly assembled Marnius for Gilliman, whatever. Jesus, can't even get their names right. The Ultramarine one.
Gilliman.
Yeah, Jesus. Yeah, I mostly assembled him. Though when we got that one, they had to send us another one because it was so fucked. And the one we have, like, I did a lot of sculpting to, like, fix some of the pieces and stuff, and then I just gave up. So I feel that's, in general, my experience with Forge World. You're excited, you get all the stuff, it's like, oh gosh. And then if you're still really excited, you start fixing all the shit, and then somewhere along that line, you just stop.
Yeah.
Though,
Yeah, I hear
since
that.
Lehman Russ and some of those other ones are the more recent ones, Forge World's gotten significantly better with a lot of that stuff. Like we recently, maybe last year, got Lionel Johnson, and he's pretty good. There were still a few pieces where it's like the mold partially shifted and like
Yeah.
it is kind of jacked. I mean, I'm at the point where like I am not that bothered that I could spend the time and fix it, but again, it's the type of thing like I did a little work on it and it's like, well, I don't need to deal with this now, and like I'm probably never going back. So that's a shame. That and Lionel Johnson's head is way too small. The helmeted one, his helmeted head is the same size as like the plastic iron armor Space Marine heads. It's the same fucking size. When they also have his unhelmeted head, which is clearly way bigger. So it's like, what the fuck? Like, why did you... Like, I was so excited that that was a Primarch helmeted head. Like, fuck yeah, finally they have
Yeah, it's
made...
the first one.
Yeah, like,
Other than Alpharius.
yeah, like, finally they've made, like, a larger armored Space Marine head, and they fucking didn't.
Yeah, it's pretty weird.
They fucking
weird
didn't.
that.
And then on top of that, I was like, well, they didn't do it there. Well, they made the plastic Gilliman model. He's huge. He has a helmeted head. Like, that might work. Like, that might be an option. It's the same fucking size. It's the same fucking size as the normal Space Marine helmets. It's like, what the fuck? And then on top of that, his, like, actual arms are pretty much the same size as a normal Space Marine as well. Like, he has, like, fucking bonkers huge legs. Like, they're fucking huge. And then he has a tiny head that's no bigger than any other Space Marines, and then tiny ass arms. It's like, what the fuck? And I mean, if
I have
you,
the model, but I haven't really looked at it that much.
if like you just look at the model assembled and in the pictures, it looks okay. It doesn't look overtly like completely wrong, but like holy shit. Like it like baffled me when I was like looking at it closer. It's like what a failure. He does
Yeah,
have a
it's a shame.
sculpted butt, and that's a big success. But like almost everything else is like, why? Yeah, they're fucking helmets.
Ridiculous.
But the thing that shocks me the most is the lion's helmeted head. Like Egan, he sculpts them, the Primarch models, to have larger heads because they're bigger. It's like, thank God he does that. Like, why didn't he do that with his helmet?
Digital sculpting probably just didn't.
Like, what the fuck? It would have been easy. Just like make it like 15% bigger or something. Like, oh, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's bad. It was bad. It upset me. I'm never going to assemble the model.
Never.
I guess they got my money though. So they won.
Yeah, they don't care.
They won. Which do you think is the nicest looking Primarch model, Chad? I don't know if I could. Rogel Dorn is great.
Dorn's
Horus
good. Yeah,
is
I like
great.
the Khan. I mean, those are two of the newest ones, though.
The Khan, his posing is like awful. I think he looks real bad. He looks like he's sitting on his bike, but he isn't.
Well, that was what they intended. That's what he's doing.
Make another one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was just to make it easier.
Horus, I think, is one of the better ones, and Gron's one of the better ones. Rogel Dorn, I think, is as well. I like Horus. I think might be he's one of the best, and Rogel Dorn, they're some of my favorite. I think.
Even though he's old, I really like Angron. I'm surprised how good
Angron's good.
Turned out for being like the first. Like the first effort to jump into this idea of making those like kind of larger than life characters.
And
different scale to start with.
Yeah.
And that's true.
Which is the worst? Is it Alpharius? I think it's Alpharius.
I think so.
Like, it's not even a comparison. His pose is terrible. He looks terrible. You could look at it and not even realize that he's supposed to be like it's very underwhelming. Like, none of the other ones even come close to that, I feel.
It's just very ho-hum compared
and then,
to...
like, his pose, he's holding the spear, and he just looks so pathetic. He's, like, kind of, like, spearing at some weedy-looking, shitty-ass Space Marine. It's just, like... So, this mighty, like, Primarch is, like... he's, like... poking at, like, a toddler. It's so bad.
But the smallest Primarch.
Yeah, but they fucked it so hard. Like, it's terrible. God. Oh.
Yeah,
no.
well.
That, of all of the models, that was the one I was the most excited for. And, oh. Wow. Wow.
Yeah, they could have some cool stuff with, like, releasing other two models or something to do the whole twin thing.
Or, like, make one that's to, like, does try and blend in with, like, the other Space Marines or whatever. He's in this stupid, ornate bullshit armor that looks awful. Yeah, it's
he was not great.
I mean, the model was sculpted fine, but it's not. It's very forgettable, and the pose is bad. Their interpretation of all of it, I also feel, was bad.
Yeah, not great.
All right, well, maybe we've chatted long enough about stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I have to go to work tomorrow. I think we probably all do.
Mm-hmm.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
All right, well, so we will, Chad, we'll have to have you on again. Maybe when we have all painted one of the new Space Marines.
Yeah, right.
Oh.
That
To get
seems
on
like a
that.
far cry, but we might be able to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, thanks again for joining us. It's been fun chatting
Yeah,
about
of course.
various stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Alright, well, yeah, thanks everybody for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, keep on enjoying the hobby, and until next time,
Yep.
over and out.
See you, everybody.
No.
Huh.